The ultimate sacrifice. Welcome to day 11. And today we're diving deep into the crimson heart of biblical theology. We are exploring how an ancient system of blood and altars paved the way for our eternal security. We are examining the necessity of the ultimate sacrifice. Modern readers often find the Old Testament a bit shocking or graphic. When you read books like Leviticus, you find a world filled with slaughter, smoke, altars, and blood. There are endless descriptions of lambs and goats and bulls are being sacrificed day after day. Our modern polite sensibilities tend to recoil from this imagery. We ask, why would a loving God design a religious system that appears so bloody and severe? But God was establishing a profound, unyielding legal principle in the universe. He was teaching humanity that sin is not a minor infraction that can be brushed away with a casual apology. Sin is a capital crime against an infinite creator. It destroys life, and therefore it costs life to make it right. The author of the book of Hebrews distills centuries of Old Testament sacrificial law into a single foundational axiom of the universe. Look at the uncompromising legal statement in Hebrews 9 and 22. And it reads, and according to the law, almost all things are purified with blood, and without shedding of blood, there is no remission. Let's focus heavily on that final phrase. Without shedding of blood, there is no remission. The word remission in the New King James Version means the cancellation of a debt, the forgiveness of an offense, or the wiping away of guilt. God is stating that the legal currency required to pay for sin is blood. Why blood? Because God declared in Leviticus that the life of the flesh is in the blood. Blood represents life itself. When you and I sin, we earn the wage of death. We forfeit our right to live. Therefore, for a holy God to forgive a sin without compromise, his own absolute justice, a life must be surrendered. The shedding of blood means that a literal death has occurred, a penalty has been paid, and a life has been given as a substitute for the guilty. Justice cannot be bypassed, it must be satisfied. In the Old Testament system, under the Levitical priesthood, this substitution happened through animals. On the Day of Atonement, the high priest would take an unblemished lamb, lay his hands on his head to symbolically transfer the sins of the people unto the animal, and then shed its blood. For a moment, the wrath of God was appeased, and the sins of the nation were covered. But the ancient system had a massive inherent limitation. Animal blood could never truly cure the human condition. Think about it logically. An animal is not a human being. A lamb cannot willfully or intentionally stand in your place. Therefore, animal sacrifice could never actually erase sin. It could only act as a temporary placeholder, a spiritual credit card charging the debt forward until a permanent payment arrived. Hebrews tells us that it is impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sins. That is why the priests had to stand and offer the exact same sacrifices day after day, year after year. The repetition of the old sacrifices was a constant tolling bell reminding humanity that the definite, perfect, and ultimate sacrifice had not yet arrived. As we close today on day 11, look up from the bloody altars of the Old Testament and look toward the horizon of the New Testament. The thousands of gallons of blood spilled on Jewish altars for generations were all pointing toward a singular climatic moment in human history. When Jesus Christ walked down the Jordan River, John the Baptist pointed at him and screamed the ultimate summary of human history. Behold, the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. Jesus did not come to abolish the sacrificial system. He came to be its final fulfillment. He came to bleed so perfectly that the altars would never need to smoke again. No longer have to carry the crushing weight of your own guilt. You do not have to perform penance, punish yourself, or try to bleed emotionally to make up for your mistakes. The shedding of blood required to grant you absolute, permanent remission of sins has already occurred. The true, unblemished substitute has stepped forward, and his blood has paid for your infinite debt in full. Tomorrow, we will look directly at the identity of this perfect substitute as we examine Jesus the Messiah, fully God and fully man. But today, rest in the finished nature of the sacrifice. Stop trying to pay for what has already been bought. Trust in the blood of the Lamb and step into the radical freedom of total forgiveness. This concludes our daily devotion. Thank you for listening and be blessed.